All right. Why don't we get started? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Nadeem Mia. I am the portfolio manager for Sharia Portfolio Canada. With us tonight is brother Riyad Rahamat. He is a director of finance with Penny Appeal Canada. And also tonight joining us, one of our guest speakers is brother Sarwar Qureshi. He's a CPA based out of Ottawa. And so, inshallah, the topic of tonight is basically, of course, with year end, donating securities and stocks, in your charitable giving. And so what we wanted to do was, we did want to kind of begin the night. First and foremost, I do need to kind of start with a quick disclaimer here. Everything that is being presented tonight is for educational purposes only. We're not construing any financial advice or tax advice for that matter. We encourage everybody to speak to their financial advisor or their tax specialist on any specific questions relating to their situation. Right. So with that, here's just the agenda for tonight. It's going to be very brief. We have a small presentation. I mean, this is obviously just a welcome and intro. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sharia portfolios for some of the newcomers to our webinar. And then shortly after myself, we're going to have Brother Riyad just give us a quick update on some of the good things that Penny Appeal has been doing in 2022. They did have that big event with the UFC fighter, Brother Habib. I could not be there because I was attending to another superstar. My wife, it was our anniversary. I told Tala that, I'd love to be there, but I can't. We already had some plans, but hopefully next time, inshallah. And shortly after that, we're going to have Sarwar. Sarwar is, like I said, he's a CPA. He's also the CFO for FTX Crypto. I'm just kidding. No. So he's a partner with Patterson and Company, and inshallah, he's going to be sharing some thoughts on, donation and some of the tax benefits and questions behind donating securities. And finally, last but not least, I'm going to close it up by just talking about donating securities. What securities you donate, some of the do's and the don'ts behind when you're giving to charity, and some of the benefits and so forth. And of course, last but not least, there's going to be a Q&A. So I think for the most part, the bulk of our presentation or the bulk of tonight's event, I think will be mostly Q&A. So we'll kind of get started. So just for the newcomers here, Sharia Portfolio, who are we? Sharia Portfolio, the company actually initially started off in 2003. That's our parent company in the United States and based in Orlando. At that time, we've been servicing Muslim Americans, in terms of helping them reach their financial objectives, but making sure that it's not compromising their Islamic values. Of course, the business in the United States grew. We expanded to 26 states. And alhamdulillah, that also resulted in somewhat of an expansion into Canada. So the Canadian office really kind of got started in 2019, 2020. And we're registered in the provinces of Ontario, Quebec, BC, and Alberta. And again, our purpose is similar to what we've been doing for Muslim Americans, which is helping Muslim Americans helping Muslim Canadians reach their financial objectives, but making sure that we're not compromising their values. Some of you might know us from our sister company, SP Funds. That is the company that launches our ETFs that trade on the New York Stock Exchange. We hope some of you are kind of keeping tabs on that, and we did ring the bell last week, so we're really quite proud of that. So Sharia Portfolio, like I said, we are dedicated to Sharia compliant investing. That's kind of our purpose. We don't offer any non-Sharia compliant products. We follow the IOP standard. That is a standard that I would consider the gold standard when it comes to Islamic finance in general. Our structure is that we are licensed with the Ontario Securities Commission, but we're also partnered up with Fidelity Investments. that is our custodian, bank, and broker. So any clients that are opening accounts and any administration or trading that we do, it is done through the back office of Fidelity, and Fidelity is actually one of the largest asset managers in the world. So with that, I mean, I'm not going to dive too much into that. I'm going to kind of get started here and pass the floor on to Brother Riyadh. Brother Riyadh?
Yes, well, thank you very much. So I have a quick little presentation, if you can allow me to share here. Okay, good.
I'll stop sharing, and then
right.
you can take it over.
Okay, good. So let me just, so good. So is everyone seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So Assalamu alaikum, and thank you all for joining us tonight. We're quite excited because this is a new initiative for us here at Penny Appeal, and it's something that we're looking forward to. You know, everybody gives it the traditional way of giving your money. Some give in their time, some gives in their doors. But this is a new one we're getting into, where you can actually give us your shares, you know, your investment shares, and we then take that and put that to good use. We take that to help people across the world. And so this is a new initiative here that we're getting in partnership with Sharia Portfolio. And this is a little bit about us, Penny Appeal Canada. So the first thing to note here about us is that our motto is small change, big difference. With small change, we're planning to make a big difference. Okay. So okay, give me a second here. Okay, anyway, all right, let's not dwell on that. So just a little bit in terms of our organization. So Penny Appeal Canada is a registered charity, and we have programs in over 40 countries worldwide. And the key about us is that we're the fastest growing Muslim charity out there. And, you know, like I said, our vision is basically that we take small change and we make huge differences, right? We operate in all these different countries, in different continents, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, and of course, right here, domestic. We have domestic products right here in Canada. This is a little bit of history about us. We started around 2019, you know, with 5 staff members. And then you would see in 2020, just when COVID hit, we grew, we raised about $1.47 million, and all of that was spent on programs. And then in 2020, we went to increase to 16 staff members, and we increased our amount of money we raised to $4 million. And this is just showing why we're one of the fastest growing charities. To come to 2021, we're up to 26 staff members, and we raised over $15 million. So you can see, you know, year over year, and you have to consider that 2020 and most of 2021, we were still in COVID and pandemic times. But given our team, we're one of them who, as you could see, why we are the fastest growing charity. This is as a quick introduction to our management team. We're headed by Talha Ahmed, who is our CEO. Our program director is Fawad. Director of marketing is Fawaz. Rabia is our programs director, and of course, myself, who's the director of finance. Some of our basic guiding principles is that we are based on transparency, sustainability, and innovation. And if you were to meet our team, you would see and you would understand where and how it is we can grow so fast because of this whole idea of innovation and our young team. These are just a quick overview of some of our programs: emergency relief, short-term relief, long-term relief, and domestic programs. Getting more into programs, this is some of the programs we have. Feed the World, right? We provide families and communities in need with immediate food assistance. Our thirst relief program is where we have our water, sanitation, and hygiene projects, focusing on providing access to clean and safe drinking water. And these programs are, of course, across the world. Another program is emergency response. You know, during time of crisis, we are set up to get food, to distribute food, hygiene items in a very short space of time. And we are set up to do this in times of emergency. Orphan kind, you know, we try to empower our orphans around the world with educational opportunities so that to provide them with the tools to get out of poverty. this is some picture of one of our projects. It was a solar powered water center, which we built out in Bangladesh. And, you can see from this project that you might not actually be able to see, but I'll tell you the main features of this project. What this does is that it takes solar power. It powers a water pump. That water pump brings clean, safe drinking water up, and it's stored in that big tank that you're seeing there. And then the water can be used by people, as well as you'd see this piece out here. It's a trough for animals. So it's an all-in-one encompassing project. Then that's just on the water side. The solar power is also used to create electricity, which, as you can see, well, part of it got cut out on the picture, but it's a street light. So it helps provide power to a street lighting system around the facility, as well as a close by community center, which it provides power to. So this is just an example of some photos of some projects that we are involved in. This is another one, Coding for Champions, where basically we try to distribute laptops and give programming, allowing kids to get involved with programming, which will help them develop and, make it fun and safe for them, but at the same time, they're learning something. In fact, recently we distributed, which this was last week, we distributed 67 computers to the Peel District School Board, and it was handed out to high school students, together with a coding program, which will help them hopefully, better themselves. This is just a quick look at our strategic plan from 21 to 23. It's always about doing the right thing, striving to go above and beyond, building empowering communities, nurture creativity, make lasting change, embrace diversity. These are some of our goals. I won't get into too much details, but you can be rest assured that given our team and the creativity of our team, it's why we are one of the fastest growing charities, and we're always looking for new and innovative ways, not just for people to donate and give to us, as a classic example, this program in terms of shares, but also ways in which we can improve in terms of delivering our services, more efficient ways to benefit a wider amount of people by the least amount of resources. We have offices across the world, the US, Australia, South Africa, the UAE, the UK, and of course, right here in Canada. And the point to note on this last slide is our website. Please visit our website to learn more about us and see some of the programs, and not just take a look at what we're doing, but please get involved, whether as a volunteer or whether you want to come on board to donate. Please make an effort to reach out, because as our motto goes, small change, big difference. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Riyadh, for that presentation. And like I said, that's really awesome. You guys are doing some awesome work there. And it's hopefully, inshallah, we can be a partner in some of that good stuff that you guys are doing. So now, great. So with that, now I'm going to turn the floor to Brother Sarwar, who's going to kind of dive into everyone's favorite topic, taxes. But more importantly, I would say the benefits of tax when it comes to gifting securities. Sarwar?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And I just want to start by saying, Brother Riyadh, my kids are a huge fan of the dates that you guys do during Ramadan.
Inshallah, it's coming again. Look
Inshallah.
out for it. Inshallah.
If anyone has not tried them, they bring these dates, I believe, from Palestine, and they are just top-notch, top quality, very big, juicy dates. I'm craving dates right now.
And you can turn the container into a piggy bank.
That's right. It comes in a tin.
Yeah.
That's right. Awesome. That's right. So I think we have 3 of the containers, and each container is a different mosque. I think Masjid Nabawi, Masjid Aqsa, and the Kaaba.
Right. Yes. Good.
Alhamdulillah. All right. So in any case, I'll worry about my date situation afterwards. In terms of the donations and whatnot, let's start off. Before we talk about donating securities, let's just talk about donating in general. So in Canada, donating to a registered charity results in a tax credit. This is at the individual level. This is also at the corporate level. Today's presentation is primarily focused at the individual level. So When people make a donation to a charity, Penny Appeal is a charity. There's lots of charities out there aside from Penny Appeal. Obviously, our focus is Penny Appeal today. And if we are donating to Penny Appeal, the traditional way to donate is I would take some money, perhaps, write a check, perhaps send an e-transfer. If there's a donation box, perhaps put some cash in the donation box. If there's a credit card option, I could do any of those options. So that is the traditional way of donating money. In a typical scenario, I would take the money that I'm donating. Let's say it's $1,000. The charity would issue a donation receipt to me. This is when the donation is going to a charity. There are other organizations that collect fundraising efforts. If they're not a charity, they are not able to issue a donation receipt. If you are looking for the tax credit, which as an accountant, I'm always asking my clients for the tax credit documentation to do their taxes, the donation receipt is paramount to being able to claim the tax credit. Basically, once that individual receives the donation receipt, they can claim it on their personal tax return. It has a fairly, I'm going to say, substantial benefit in terms of how that tax return is the individual's tax return is benefited by donating to the charity. So we have an example here. We'll move into the two different columns in just a moment. But if we take a look at the middle column, if someone was donating to a charity, or the middle and third column, if they were donating to a charity, we're trying to introduce what I think is maybe a bit of a new idea. I know some people have maybe done it before. Some people might have heard of it before, though in my experience, I feel like we're on the cutting edge of something. And this is the idea of donating securities. So you might be wondering, what are securities? There is a list of securities. The most common would be stocks and mutual funds. Those would be the two most common types of securities that someone would potentially look at donating. So when it comes to, if I have a non-registered investment portfolio, and what I mean by non-registered is it's a tax portfolio, it's an investment portfolio where the investment income is taxable. So if I'm talking about registered investments, I'm talking about things like RRSP, TFSA, RESP. And then in the new year, they're introducing the new, I don't know what the acronym is, but there's a home buyer's account that they're introducing. So those are registered investments. If you have investments there, that's great, but those aren't the types of investments that necessarily help in the example that we're looking at. So for people that have what's called a non-registered investment account, they have investments in those accounts. The new concept that we're trying to introduce is basically, instead of donating our cash, what if we are sitting on some securities? Let's use stocks as an example, and those stocks could be donated. And as long as the recipient, the charitable organization, is set up and they have, an investment account and they're set up to receive that, usually there's some paperwork that they'll have the donor fill out, and then the transfer can be made where the stock is now sent over to the charity. So the first question, or one of the questions you might be wondering is, well, what's the point? Why would I donate a stock instead of giving cash? And the answer, or one of the answers, is in Canada, if your stock has appreciated in value, so if it has gone up in value, so the example that we have in the chart here, we have a stock that we bought for $1,000 maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe it was Nadeem. He helped us buy something for $1,000, and in 3 or 4 years, the value is now $5,000, right? It's seen a 5x increase in a couple of years. And by all means, that's possible depending upon the security that you have. If you have that investment in a non-registered account, when you sell that investment, or in other words, dispose of it, that results in a capital gain. So the difference between the $5,000 and the $1,000 is a $4,000 capital gain. That's the third line on the graph or the chart that we have here. If you're an individual and you have a capital gain, you have to pay tax on that. Now, capital gains are taxed at 50%, so half of the gain is taxable. We pay tax on that half of the gain, and depending on your tax bracket, the numbers can vary, but for example purposes, the tax on that gain is $920. That's the middle column scenario. What that means is if I was donating dollars, not securities, if I was donating dollars and I had this investment with a capital gain on it and I sold the investment, got my $5,000, paid my tax on the capital gain, I would be left with $4,080 to donate, which is the $5,000 that I sold the stock for minus the $920 capital gain, $4,080 to donate. That is still great, donating $4,080. The benefit to me, the benefit to the individual is a tax credit of $1,876. That's great. The new concept or the idea that we'd like to introduce is the third column, which is basically saying if we donate the security directly, the government has an incentive where that capital gain is not taxable. So if you look at that tax on capital gain, it's $920 in the middle column, but it's zero in the third column. And basically what they're saying is we don't have to pay tax on that capital gain. So if we're sitting on this investment and we donate it, that capital gain is not taxable. That's the advantage here. And that's huge because that $920 of tax is now no longer in the picture, which means I'm able to donate the full $5,000, which means my tax credit is $2,300. So to give you maybe a more practical example, if I wanted to donate $5,000 to Penny Appeal and I had $5,000 in my bank account that I could donate, but I was also sitting on an investment that was worth $5,000 and has appreciated in value, some shares that have gone up, I might be tempted to say, hey, I'll donate those shares, save on the capital gain or not have to worry about the capital gain. And now that $5,000 that I have over here in my bank account, I can always purchase new shares at a higher cost price and get that into my portfolio that way. So whenever I'm working with clients who have non-registered investment portfolios, when they're thinking of investing, the first question is, are we sitting on any big unrealized capital gains? And in some cases, I have clients, just to use some random examples, maybe they bought shares of Bell Canada 25 years ago, and they've been sitting on it, and those shares have appreciated a significant amount over that period of time. So, the tax on that would be significant. That's really, at a high level, what we're trying to introduce here is the donation of the securities instead of the cash to realize the benefit of no capital gain and a bigger donation.
Awesome. All right. Jazakallah khair, Server, for that. And, you kind of summarized my I guess next few slides, but that's great. So, just kind of picking up where Server left off, and this is just a summary from an investment point of view. As you mentioned, what securities qualify. Typically, we're talking about shares of listed securities on designated stock exchange. That's the official term. Those stock exchanges, you're talking about Toronto, NEO, most major markets such as NYSE and NASDAQ. Of course, mutual funds as well. ETFs, exchange traded funds. Those are also, those also are securities that qualify. And last but not least, any type of fixed income such as Canada, federal government bonds or corporate bonds. Of course, we're a Sharia portfolio. We don't really focus in on that. But I think for the most part, to Sarver's point, it is the advantage is about capital gains, right? And so capital gains are normally typically issued by stocks and not even bonds. So that's I guess an irrelevant point. The other thing I will mention is from a Zakat point of view, because of course Penny Appeal and a lot of other Islamic organizations have that that option to give zakat as opposed to other initiatives that they have. We do a webinar on zakat every year where we actually bring in a scholar and he speaks on the topic of zakat. So this is not Nadeem Mian's point of view. This is actually coming from a much more smarter individual on this topic. And the Sheikh was clear in the sense that when you are giving zakat, keep in mind that if the money is not coming from a halal source, it cannot be deemed to be zakatable. So from an investment standpoint, that does mean, for example, any interest-bearing investments, if you're looking to donate, I'm sure charities will take that. That's not, I'm not here to say that, Penny Appeal will not, we won't do that, but just from an Islamic or Deen perspective is that, that cannot be considered zakatable. It can still be donated for other causes, sure, but just kind of wanted to add that because we do get a lot of questions on Sharia compliance and zakat and how that is impacted. And likewise, it's not just interest-bearing investments. It also applies to shares. So, for example, for whatever reason, if you had owned to use an extreme example, if you owned a casino stock, for example, that cannot be deemed to be zakatable either. So that's one of the things that Sharia portfolio does. Is obviously we make sure that the at least from our perspective, the client's own shares, any investment is Sharia compliant. So therefore, it can be donated not to just to any emergency cause. It can also be considered a zakatable donation. So now just talking about some of the logistics of donating securities. And again, just to add on to what Sarver said, only gift shares where you've accrued capital gain. It doesn't make any sense if you if you're at a capital loss on a security, it doesn't make sense for you to donate those shares. You're better off doing something that has a capital gain. Now, we as portfolio managers, what we do is let's just say, for example, there's a position that you have, in the portfolio. We like it, you like it. We really don't want to get rid of it from an investment point of view. You can still donate those shares and we can rebalance the portfolio and buy those shares back. So for example, hypothetically, let's just say we own shares of Google and you had donated shares of Google to a charity, but you felt that, I really want to keep Google for the long term. That's something that, we can buy it back. And of course, your cost basis will be higher. And, that's actually, again, a tax advantage. And as Sarver mentioned, it's only for taxable accounts only. Now, just kind of working on how to gift, the first thing that you want to do, whether it's Penny Appeal or any other charity, is that you would contact your charity and ask them that you want to do this process. And typically what happens is, a couple of brokerage firms or, investment firms are involved. One would be from the charities, side, and the other one would be from the donor side. Ultimately, of course, there's some paperwork involved. You can donate, how you can specify how many shares. So for example, if you had, 100 shares of a particular company and you didn't want to give 100, you only wanted to give 50. You can specify that. It doesn't have to be the whole amount. So it is going from basically one investment account to another. And our Sharia portfolio, we do our custodian bank is Fidelity. We do the logistics of that through Fidelity. And how can charities benefit? And, at the end, maybe Brother Riyad can even, talk on this, but essentially the logistics is that once those shares are donated to the charity, depending on what the instruction is for the donor, for example, it could be an emergency relief situation, just as like recently we had the floods in Pakistan. In that case, the donor can say, look, you know what, I want these shares to be donated to that cause. What ends up happening is we do receive the shares, and then subsequently we would sell those shares in the Penny Appeal's account, and then Penny Appeal would essentially use those funds accordingly, right? And likewise, there's also an option. Some charities have or may want to establish something that's a little bit more sustainable, like an endowment fund or something a little bit more long-term, like a long-term project or something like that, where you can donate the shares and essentially we can, use those shares to either reinvest or hold those shares so that the portfolio can grow for, a sustainable long-term time. So, with that, I think, that's about it from my end. We're going to start it off with the Q&A. I should have mentioned there is a Q&A box there. So we encourage everyone to, put your questions there. But I guess what I'll do is I will kick it off with a question. So I guess sometimes, we get a question, what is the minimum gift size? Any of you guys want to chime in on that? Sarver, from a tax point of view, when it comes to securities, what would be like a minimum gift size?
There, in my mind, there's no minimum because a donation credit and a donation receipt can be issued for any amount. You know, I've seen donation receipts for $5. I've seen donation receipts for $50, $5,000, and so on. So I don't feel like there's a minimum. I think you and I both mentioned this point, Nadeem. If it is someone who's interested in donating securities, I think the first thing is make sure that it's in a gain position. So depending upon how your investment statements are laid out, sometimes it's called book value, or we, in my accountants, we call it adjusted cost base. What did you buy this investment for? And then take a look at what the market value, which potentially is the market price times the number of shares, and see, are we sitting on a gain or not? If it's in a gain position, I'd say it's worth considering to use that as an amount to donate. And of course, loop in the charity. If, you know, if we're talking like 1 or 2 shares and it's not a significant amount at all, perhaps there's going to be some brokerage fees and things like that from the financial institutions end that might impact that final amount that's being contributed. But otherwise, you know, small or big, I think Brother Riyadh said it well. Small change, big difference.
That's right. A small change, big difference. We will accept, you know, pretty much anything. So I think the main point here is that this model of donating shares has benefits for both sides. Benefit for us as a charity to help people, and benefit for you that you can get a tax credit as well as you get the blessings associated with your givings. Now, in a situation of a gain position, you get more benefit. You get the tax credit and on the capital gains, as well as you get the blessings. However, if you still donate on a loss position, you still get the blessings, and you may not get the capital gains, but you still get the blessings, right?
Yeah,
So, you know, you know, either way, it's fine with us from a charity's perspective, but it's just from you as your personal, you just need to understand, you know, it's a little bit of a less gain for you on the physical side, but on the spiritual side, it's still there.
All right,
I love it.
Just a question here. How does the tax charity receipt work? So maybe I'll start off, and maybe Brother Riyadh, you can kind of end. So basically, again, what we're doing is we're transferring an asset from and correct me if I'm wrong here. You know, once you give that asset to somebody else, it is considered that is the value that you're essentially donating, and then essentially the receipt is something that Penny Appeal would issue, right?
Yes. So it's basically based on the dollar value. If you give us shares with a value, a market value that we can sell it for, and once we sell those shares, we get $10,000. That's what we will issue the receipt for. If we sell the shares and we get $3,000, that's what we will issue the receipt for. It's the value of what we can sell it for at that time. Yeah.
All right. I have another one here. Are there any risks associated to donating securities? I guess, and I can kind of answer that here. I guess the risk would be, you know, at the time of the transfer, where, for example, if you are donating, let's just say $10,000, or at that time, the day you donated, it's worth 10,000. You know, by the time it transfers over to the charity's account, that $10,000 may have fluctuated a little bit, right? It could have, you know, it could, I mean, depending on what market we're talking about, hopefully, you know, it's not one of those Black Monday days, but it could fluctuate. So I think, you know, maybe sometimes what the smart thing to do would be, you know, to donate just slightly more than what you're intending to do. That way, if there's any drop off in the value, you know, you at least hit your minimum, you know, amount. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes. In terms of risk, yes, there's at least from our side, on the charity side, I don't see that there's too much risk, because whether you give cash or you give your shares, you know, I'm not sure if there's anything associated with risk. I can't think of anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the market risk is the biggest one, where some transfers typically from broker to broker, it's done electronically. It can take about maybe, up to like 5, maybe 7, 10 business days, depending on the institution that we're dealing with. So what does end up happening is that, when the donor decides, okay, these shares today are worth, $10,000, and that's my intention. I want to give this amount, and they're expecting a tax receipt for 10,000. Then ultimately, by the time the shares get over to the charity and they sell it, it now could be at 9,500, for example, right? In a situation where maybe the market had a bad week or something. So in that case, that's why, maybe putting a little bit more than what, maybe putting $10,500 worth of securities, like transferring that over instead of the 10,000. That's, I guess, one of the ways that you can work around that potential risk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I got one here. Is there a good time of the year to donate securities? Let any one of you two take care of that one.
I mean, in my mind, you get the donation credit and the donation receipt at any point in time. However, if we're talking about realizing the benefit on your tax return, a donation, for example, made in December will get you a benefit on the tax filing, which is coming up in a few months, as opposed to if you make a donation in January, you're going to be waiting the full year plus a couple months until the tax filing time. So in my mind, donating at the end of the year, if we're talking about time value of money from an individual's perspective, that's fantastic, because you want to, if I make a donation on December 31st, I get the credit and the receipt for that year. If I make it on January 1st, just one day later, I'm waiting a full year before I can claim that on my tax return.
Mhm.
Yeah. From a charity side, it's there's no real benefit, or whatever time you donate from. The only thing I can think of is that the blessings are multiplied so much more full than Ramadan.
Yeah, good point.
So, all right, I get one other one here. If my security pays an income and I donate that security, am I still entitled to that income? Okay, that is no, but what benefit would that be? So I guess what we're talking about here is a dividend paying stock. So I know, like Sever mentioned, for the most part, we're talking about capital appreciation and taking advantage of the capital appreciation. What about, for example, a security that might not have gotten capital appreciation, but is constantly paying a dividend? I mean, depending, one perspective could be when you are donating, and this is my portfolio management hat speaking. If you are donating those shares, for example, to a charity, now you'll still get the tax credit, and you'll still get the blessings. And I think the charity, when they get that security, if they choose to hold on to it, that can be an additional, I guess you could say, benefit for them, in the sense that now they're actually holding a security that's paying them an income within their portfolio. So there's additional benefit to that. I mean, again, I'm putting my portfolio management hat on and saying that, Brother Riyadh, you can speak from a charity point of view.
Yeah. So okay. So when this in this instant, if you transfer those shares to us, then basically you're giving up the rights on those shares and basically the income. Now, it's left up to you to tell us as the charity what you would like happen with these shares. So for example, if you would like us to hold on to those shares, take the income that is being generated from those shares and keep putting it into a program, or just using it for charitable purposes. That is one option. Or alternatively, you can say, here are the shares, you sell it, take the value, and then put it into a program, a one-off thing. Then obviously, once we sell it, there's no more income. So really, it comes down to what you would like to do. We would cater to you either way. We'd hold the shares, take the income, put it into a program as it comes in, the dividends, whether it's quarterly or every year, annually, and into a program, or it's based really on your instructions and how you would like us to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we'll kind of I'll wrap it up and close on that note and kind of add to it. We are Muslim charities, alhamdulillah, have done quite well, and especially the last few years. And I think that speaks to our community. And we've unfortunately, we've had to attend to these various emergencies, but at the same time, I think our intention is to make charities, more sustainable and look at more other bigger picture problems, right? That whole that saying about giving a man a fishbowl rather than a fish. And so I think what we're trying to do here, hopefully, inshallah, with Penny Appeal is we're trying to do that fishbowl strategy and create some type of a fund where we can ultimately build it and have it sustainable so that we can, Penny Appeal can donate, can have success in some of those other initiatives that they've been doing. So I'll let Brother Riyadh kind of close up on that, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and that comes on the receipt side. So if you give it us as a one-off, we sell it, we take the volume, the amount of money, and we invest, we put it into a program, then you'll get a tax receipt for that amount. If you ask us to hold the security and whatever dividends it generates, and guys, just FYI, we'd like the securities to be in some halal company, preferably no bear companies, but we'll take those dividends and we will put them into a program. And every year that it generates, revenue for you, we'll issue for the amount that it generates, you'll get a tax receipt. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jazakallah khair, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Brother Riyadh and Brother Server for sharing, giving us your time and your wisdom. And hopefully, inshallah, maybe we'll do this again, and look forward to that as well. One last thing I will say is we are going to be at the RIS convention, so I do encourage if you are planning to attend the event, please do look out for our booth. I will be there. I know Penny Appeal is going to be there too. I'm not sure if you'll be there or not. And the other, I guess, shout out, or I should say boost I wanted to point out was that we will also be doing our year-end portfolio and market update review and outlook for 2023. That is an email will go out shortly, but we're just going to kind of recap the markets, how we've done, and what our outlook is going forward. So inshallah, we encourage everyone to attend that, and you'll get better insight as far as what we're doing and what our thoughts are going forward. So Jazakallah khair, everyone. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with all of you again soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.